Do y'all drink Canada Dry?
Do I drink Canada Dry?
Mm-hmm.
Is that what you said? Yeah, I love Canada Dry. I mean, there's lots of different ginger ale brands that we have. Schweppes. I think Schweppes is the main other one, but I prefer Canada Dry. So that's a big thumbs up. Yes.
See, I was wondering if that was just something, in the United States that they just named after Canada, or if it really came from Canada or not.
I'm not even sure if it came from Canada, to be honest, but we definitely have it here. So that's my go-to ginger ale. I drink diet. I drink diet. Like I'm trying to stay away from sugar, so I drink diet Canada Dry pretty often.
And I did want to make a comment too. So I was looking through like your story highlights, and I saw that you made some mild sauce with some chicken. How did that come out? I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah. So I've been to Chicago. You're in Chicago, right?
Yes.
Okay, so you definitely must know about Uncle Remus. So I've been to Chicago a few times, and I've been to Uncle Remus, and ever since I had it the first time, I've been trying to recapture what I had. So yeah, what you saw in my story was my attempt. I think it came out pretty good, actually.
Yeah, it looks pretty good. It looks very close, I will say.
But I didn't have the rolls, so I had to use like regular, like I didn't have any rolls on me, so I had to use like just regular bread. So tasted good though.
That's funny though, because like, did you go to Harold's too?
No, I never went to. I never made it to Harold's. I know there's like a big like West Chicago or West Side versus South Side kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I've only gone to. I've been there like I've been to Chicago like 3 or 4 times, and every time I only went to Remus.
That's
so one day, next time I'll make an effort to go to Harold's.
Yeah, it's pretty good. You wouldn't be going to the ones in the suburbs like where I am, but like they're not the same. It's better than nothing, but like, yeah, like definitely go to one like in Chicago.
Okay. So they use like regular bread. Is that what you're saying? As opposed to
rolls, like white bread.
Oh, see, I didn't even know that's what I was doing. I thought I was just like, okay, I don't have the rolls, so I got to use bread. But I didn't know I was doing the Harold's thing.
The heart of Personal Pizza Party Show is to give voice to women creatives and people who like support that. And you're definitely somebody who like regularly advocates for and uplifts like women in word and action, especially in the CHH space. In this tweet, you were talking about women in CHH. For anybody who is listening or watching who missed this tweet, here's my thread on women in CHH. The first women I was exposed to in the genre when I got saved were Elsie and Zane from Tunnel Rat. Elsie quickly became one of my favorites, especially when I heard the New Breed stuff with Macho. She more than held her own. After that, I didn't hear a lot of women rapping. Entering the early Reach era, I can't think of any. I'm sure there must have been some, but I didn't see any in the forefront. Then I came across a random Kay Sade freestyle. I was blown away, but I noticed it wasn't getting as much love as it would have if a dude had spit that way. So I decided to reach out and show support and encouragement. After that, I started to discover more like Lex Divine, AI The Anomaly, and so many more. I noticed how dope OMG Wande was before the hype and reached out for the collab on Gotta Go, which ended up being my biggest song to date. And I put together all the ladies. She mixed one of the most popular songs, Good Cypher. More on that later. Although if I could do it again, I would have mixed them up with the fellas so y'all would have paid more attention. Later, I came across Soya Forever, who I worked with on OK OK, and I'm Portia Love, who is super dope. There's a lot of ladies I'm not tagging too that are dope. And this was my favorite part of the thread. In conclusion, I always try to support women in CHH, but my platform is only so big. We need more of these bigger labels and artists to make moves. One lady per label is a start, but that can't be where it stops. So much more I can say, but catch me on Clubhouse or something. Yeah, so like that was like my favorite part of the tweet.
By the way, shout out to Jackie Hill because I missed her in the equation. She definitely was somebody that I did notice was doing her thing earlier in my discovery phase.
First question is kind of like, what do you have to say to male artists who kind of aren't as involved in that?
I mean, I would say, first I would ask why, because, if you actually open your eyes, you'll see that there's quite a lot of dope, women MCs that are coming up in our space. Some who have been around for a while and some that are emerging. Just like we have a lot of new, younger dudes coming up. There's a lot of women too that are coming up. So I would say just give them the same. Well, you asked me what I would say to them. Yeah, I would say give them the same level of at least the same level of respect to at least press play. You know what I mean? And see what's going on, at least. And if you like what you hear, then share. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't always have to be, oh, I'm going to like. I know I collaborate with a lot of them because that's one of the ways that I do. That's one of the ways that I do try to shine some light on the female talent by collaborating and so on and using my platforms. But I would say it's not only about how you can use them to enhance your platform. It's also how can you just show love the same way that you would show love to a up and coming, dude rapper. You can show love to a female rapper. Just even if you're not collaborating, you can just show love just because you know that they need more support because they're not getting as much support as us. So why not take the time to just, press resend or at least like or something,
One of the things that, I was just kind of curious about is why do you make it a point to support and advocate for women? Why is that important to you?
I think it's funny because when I put together the She Mix, I had a conversation with some of those ladies. I had individual conversations with some of them on the phone. And one of the ladies that I spoke to on the phone was, I believe it was Latoria. And she asked me why. She asked me what you just asked me, like, why do you care? Like, why is this important to you? And I said, I think it comes from the fact that I'm used to being, like coming from where I'm coming from Canada, I'm used to having that kind of underdog feel where people kind of judge you based. This is before, I mean, obviously now we're in the Drake era. Things are a little bit different, but still there was always this thing of, oh, that guy's from Canada. Nah, we don't want to hear that. This is because I've been rapping for a long time. So before the Drake era, it was kind of like that whole like, we don't want to hear that. We don't want to hear that, coming from Canada. So there's a lot, and I knew that there was a lot of talent that I had and others had that just weren't getting the shine or getting even the chance to show what we could do because of where we were coming from. So I think I always had that kind of like underdog thing where I was like, okay, if I ever get a bigger platform and I have an opportunity to shine a light on somebody who I know or a group that I know has talent but is not getting the shine, I will do what I can to try and shine a light because I know what that feels like. So I noticed that one of the groups that was underserved in our space was women. Mm-hmm. So I think that, so I feel like that's where that's like, I'm trying to psychoanalyze myself. And I think that's where it's coming from. Just kind of that relatability of like, okay, I know what it's like to be talented, but not really get the look. I think that's where it's coming from, most of it.
One of the women that you often support, advocate for, like give opportunities to is Kay Sade, friend of the show. I only knew that you guys had did, the first Good Cypher and then the She Mix Cypher. When that happened in 2018, when I saw that, like you put that song out, I was like, yo, this is about to be a moment. And it wasn't. Honestly, it's kind of like not surprising, kind of like what you said in your tweet. Like, unfortunately, you probably would have had to mix in guys for people to care.
And that was a big platform too. Like I had just got my deal at that time with RMG Amplify, and they put it like they actually put a push behind it. So I was really hoping that would make a lot more noise. But yeah, like you mentioned, I think unfortunately because of the stigma of, oh, it's just a bunch of girls rapping, unfortunately, it didn't get as much shine as I hoped it had gotten. It didn't even get as much shine as the original, which had Kay Sade on it, but had a lot of other, guys on it and so on. So, yep, we still got work to do.
Yeah, so I said that because, other than those two songs, like I wasn't aware of your camaraderie and relationship with Kay like that. This is one of the tweets that made me be like, okay, like I have to have Dru Bex on, when I found this out, because even she's like, nobody knew this. So she tweeted, y'all don't know this, but in addition to fixing my weak artist name, Dru Bex has been encouraging me as an artist consistently since 2014, not just with words, but with opportunity. We collaborated a few times. Most songs got released and some didn't work out. And then she goes on to say, I value it when people see the potential in others when it's years away and isn't so obvious. That and the selflessness of a bigger artist giving a smaller artist an opportunity to take it up a notch. That's priceless and something to be respected. Thank you, Dru Bex. And I was like, oh my goodness, I had no idea.
Yeah. I like I said, I came across her, I guess 2014 is when I came across her, and I saw the, what she said, I saw the potential, and I was just like, wow, why is nobody like this is I was shocked at the fact that it wasn't I was like not hearing or seeing other people really getting as excited as I was.
Yeah, and so like I love to see stuff like that, and also love the fact that you guys created an exceptional album during the pandemic.
Thank you.
You know,
Thank you.
like so let's talk about that. I have yet to get tired of UFO Tofu. Like I've been streaming. Just want to put that out. You really put action behind your advocacy, and one of the ways is like made a whole entire album. I hate to say female rapper, but like, essentially with the female rapper, like a lot of people like in the space don't do that necessarily. So I was just curious. So like, was there anything new that you learned about Kay, like during the process of making the album?
Well, here's the thing. A lot of people might not know this, especially given the fact that we work together so closely. But I've only actually met Kay like in person in the flesh once, and that was years ago in Nashville. She was going to school out there, and I had a show out there with RMG. Aside from that, we've been cordial and done music. But one of the things that I really wanted to be intentional about with this project, when I reached out to her and said, "Hey, let's do this project," I said, I don't just want to do music and then not really, not have some kind of friendship or something outside of the music. So I made it intentional for me and my wife to basically connect with her and her husband, have a couple of Zoom calls and so on that were not even music related, just to kind of get to know each other a bit, find out where she's coming from. So, I got to know more about her life that I didn't know before, more about her as a person. So that was cool. And vice versa. She got to know more about me and my family and my life outside of music. As far as the music goes, I knew she was talented, but I've never gotten to witness how talented she is, not only on the artistry side, but on the production, like on the rapper side or singer side, but on the production side. She is so good at like just producing. Like she produced, I think, at least half or so of this project. And just watching her work, as far as like, I wasn't in the room with her, but seeing her just like, okay, I did this part, send it to me, I'm gonna add, like, just kind of seeing the process was amazing. So I learned that she was just as good a producer as she is a rapper and singer.
Yeah, that's what's I can imagine. And I want to say really quick, like, I can see why, because like one, like she said that she's been doing it for a long time. And two, like it's also what she does for a living. So like she's doing it all day. So like, it makes sense.
I also learned about her. I'll say this too. I also learned about her ability to adapt, because she did send me a couple of beats where I was like, okay, cool, but can we make it sound more like this? And she was like, bet. Like she just did it. You know what I mean? Like with like I wasn't there, but it seemed like it was with relative ease, because she got it back in a timely fashion. So she can really adapt and learn and add to her skills. She's not done. Like she's not like what you see now is not the final place where she's gonna get to creatively. She has, based on what I saw, she has more to go. So I'm excited about that.
I told Dru Bex that I wanted to be a scholar in the UFO Tofu album, because I have listened to it so many times. I have thoroughly enjoyed this project. And so I asked him to put together some trivia questions for me to test my knowledge. So hopefully I can prove, that I know as much as I think I know about this album.
Tried and I tried to let him ride on my time. I tried biding my time, but it got harder, won't lie.
First question, what is unique about the overall styling of all the tracks on the track list?
They are all palindromes, meaning that
you got it.
The same forwards and backwards.
You got it. And you got the bonus question, which was, what is the name for that? So you said palindrome, so you got it. All right. This is one of the harder ones, I think. Let's see. In my verse on Radar, what imagery device or scheme do I use throughout the verse? There's like a specific kind of, not, okay. Let's see if you got it. I can further explain if you need me to, but let's see if you got it.
Yeah, I believe I know what it is. I'm just trying to put the lyrics in my head really quick. Okay, I'm gonna just go for it. Is it the card thing when you were like dealing with kings and queens and such?
You got it. I pretty much mentioned all the cards, all the card suits. You got it. Finish this line. I don't know why they so prone to hate us, don't value Black lives.
Just won't entertain us, but here we are for your entertainment.
All right, 3 for 3.
Started, I did not want to like be rapping the whole thing, but I will though.
One song is named after a comic book / movie character, and another song is named after an early 2000s cartoon character. Which 2 songs are they?
Ororo and Autumn.
You got it. Bonus question. What name is she more commonly known by?
Storm.
You got it. Storm from the X-Men. You got it. Question 5. What is the first thing that is said on the album? That's a hard one, I think.
First thing that you say is Jesus Christ.
First round one. And that was a trick question. So you're kind of right, but the first thing is clear. It says clear.
Okay.
I knew I was going to get you with that one. I knew I was going to get you with that one. Last question. How many guest artists are featured on the album other than me and Kay?
Guest artists other than you and Kay
are in the track list.
Like yes. Okay. Yep, I know. Your wife is on the album.
Okay. All right. So you actually answered that question better than I thought you would, because I expected you to say 0. You were almost perfect. Except for that trick question. I got you with that trick question. So good job.
You got me there. I'm so excited.
I don't got any prize for you, but if you want to buy yourself some pizza or something, I can e-transfer you.
Oh my goodness! Like this is like more than enough. Like I'm just happy that I got all of them, because let me tell you, I thought you was gonna be like, tell me the track list from the bottom to the top. Like give me all the pressure. Like I was really studying. Like it was a test. Like I'm like, nah, like I'm about to get this. Yeah, that was so fun though. Question, did y'all only make one t-shirt that the person that won the giveaway won?
So yeah, there was a bit of complications with that. Just a lot of things with the just a lot of technical complications. So to answer your question, no, we didn't even make that one. We had to reach out to as a matter of fact, he got everything, he got his money and everything like that, but we still actually communicated with him saying the t-shirt thing didn't work out. So we're still working on how we're going to approach that. Me and Kate are talking about doing merch. But yeah, there's some challenges, even the international stuff, like me being in Canada and her being in the States, there's some little challenges that we're trying to work through right now. So yeah, no t-shirts for now, but working on it.
Yeah, whenever they are ready, I am ready. So I don't have a ton of questions about the album, because honestly, I feel like there was next to nothing left to be desired, at least as far as the music. So I just mostly have thoughts and statements that I'm going to quickly let you know while I have you here. So one, I feel like I found an Easter egg, and you can confirm this for me. Even if it's not, to me, it's still an Easter egg. On Tenet, Kay starts the verse with 333, and you have a song on Strange Days, Long Nights called 333.
Yes, that's definitely a testament to the genius of Kay, because when I put out Strange Days, Long Nights, she had hit me up and basically told me that she liked the album, and I think one of her favorite tracks was 333. And I say, like, in that song, I'm talking about being up at night or being woken up at night. And in her song, in Tenet, she says, 333, I'm up late again. So I think you're 100% right. I mean, she'd have to be the one to confirm that, because she wrote that. But I also, when I heard that, I was like, okay, she's a genius. So yeah, I would say you're right. It's an Easter egg. Plus, she also, not only is it an Easter egg for my song, but she also has, I know she uses threes too a lot. Like she has, I don't know. I know she uses threes. I know she incorporates threes into her stuff. So yeah, definitely an Easter egg. You got it.
Cool. Definitely glad that you like said that the album name and the tracks were palindromes, because if y'all would have never said nothing, I would have went like I would have had no idea. I would have figured it out like 8 years later.
Yeah, I think for a lot of people, like something. So that was my idea, and that's been something that's been consistent throughout my career. I've always, from the very beginning, I've always tried to do little things that I know the majority of people are not going to get it. But with this project, I was like, okay, this one, I need them to get this one, because I'll be disappointed if nobody gets it. So I'm just going to put it out there for them, because I'm always trying to do that. I always have, like, you know, ever since my days, the Good Album, every track was good, this and that. In God's Good Time, every track had a time. Every title was like based on like a time, something that had to do with time. You know, like I'm always trying to do stuff like that. So, you know, I'm glad that people heard about it, I guess. If they didn't catch it, I told them about it. So
yes, very glad you said that. I'm just gonna try to go quickly. Okay, so Would Have Loves a video for each and every song. We'll say that Otto absolutely deserves a budgeted visual, you know, at some point, even if it's like years later, because like that song, you know.
Yeah, crazy. The challenges of the video, sorry if I interrupted you. I don't know.
Oh no, you're fine. It's not like I want you to think it's a question though, but you good.
Yeah. So the challenging thing once again is we actually had booked when we decided to make this project. So she has family in Virginia. That's where she's originally from, and I have family in Virginia. So, or my wife does, right? Her family's all over the DMV. So when we first decided to work on the project together, we were going to meet in Virginia and film. We actually had it scheduled. I actually lost money on the plane tickets. Both of us did, because we actually were flying out the videographer and everything. We bought the tickets. We were good to shoot videos. It wasn't going to be for Otto. I think we were going to shoot videos for Ororo. We were going to shoot a video for Ororo, and we were going to shoot a video. We were actually going to go to Virginia Beach and everything. We had it all planned out. We were going to shoot a video for, I think the other one was Pull Up at one point, or Top Spot. I think it switched a couple times. But anyways, we were going to shoot the videos out there. But then COVID hit and the lockdown. And then we were like, okay, well, we're not going to fly out there anymore, but we can still maybe meet up in, like, since you're coming from Jersey and I'm coming from Toronto, we can meet up in, like, I don't know what's the halfway point, I guess. Whatever, it's not far, Buffalo or something, I don't know. And then we could shoot a couple videos, but then they locked the borders. They closed the borders. So it was like, oh man, we can't even connect and meet, and we can't whatever. So we had to kind of it pushed everything back, first of all, because the album was supposed to come out in the summer. But also we had to kind of figure out, okay, how are we going to do videos? So we ended up, you know, putting out the videos that we did, but we had to shoot separately and piece it together. So that's a long way of saying, yes, more videos would have been nice, especially for Otto, because I love Otto myself. But maybe in the future, maybe we'll revisit it. But yeah, that's what happens. COVID sucks.
For real. And it's like, I was thinking like, yo, like, I'm so glad that, you know, it came out in 2020, but like kind of wish that it didn't, you know, because I know that you guys wanted to and could have done like so much more without like everything that was happening in the world.
Agreed. Yep.
So, so there are lyrics on Genius, and I don't know if you guys you didn't know that?
I didn't put it up there.
Lyrics on Genius. So I'm wondering now, like, if they're accurate, like their accuracy. And there was one of the lyrics because there's some of them I'm like, that's what they said. Like,
they put my patois lyrics on there, my Jamaican patois lyrics on there, because I'd be curious to see how they.
Yeah, they are. Yep, they on there. This is the bone I have to pick. So, UFO Tofu on the bridge. I'm gonna tell you what they have, and I'm gonna tell you what I think it is, and you can tell me who's right. Okay. So they have and this is the bridge to the higher limits. The system is fixed, but we fly within it. Whip it up, something like sofa, replacing the junk like sofa. Like that, like the ending is pretty clear. So I feel like y'all said this is to push you to higher limits. The system exists, but we fly within it. Who right?
So Genius actually is right. But yours, I kind of like yours better. But the reason why Genius is right is because if you listen to the way that verse ended, I said there's a little tail. I said, and that's the second verse. Mm-hmm. Like when I finished my verse, it was like, and that I literally said, and that's the second verse. Yeah. And then from there I said, and this is the bridge.
Okay.
Get it?
When I thought about it just now.
Yeah. So you go from the verse to the bridge, and then the bridge to the hook, of course, right? So this is the bridge, but then I kind of did a wordplay and said to the higher limits. So, but I like, you know what, bro? You can hold on to that because I kind of like your interpretation too. Like that sounds more encouraging. So I'm glad you got that.
Okay. So last thing on the album, I want to talk about Race Car. Because you mentioned it like, a couple seconds ago. You did your verse in patois. And then tell me, how do you spell it? Because I know it's 3 ways that you spell patois.
Patois. That's how I spell it. But yeah, there's different ways. There is a PATWA kind of vibe. But I always go with PATOIS. That's what I go with. Okay.
Yeah. And then for those who don't know, like Dru Bex is Jamaican Canadian. That's his culture, nationality. So like, how did you know like that would work on that song? Because like, I would think that you would do that on a song like Pull Up. But it worked so well. So like, I don't know, like kind of what was the thought process behind that?
The beat just spoke to me. I heard it and I was like, okay, what am I going to do on this? And it just, based on what I was hearing, that's what came to me. Essentially, like I can't really explain too much of the thought process. It's just whenever I get an instrumental, I just kind of feel it out and say, I always aim to approach things differently. I don't want to just do, obviously I got to do this kind of rap on this kind of beat. I always aim to kind of look for the different ways that I can approach it to make it more interesting. So I felt that was the best approach for that song for some reason.
So I Googled patois, like, cause I heard of it, but like, did you like grow up speaking patois and stuff? Like, were you like formally taught, or was it just something that your family like communicates, like you just listen to?
In a nutshell, I'll tell you about my background. So my mother's actually she passed away when I was 7 years old in a car accident, but she's actually originally from Trinidad. So my mother, that is. So my mother was a single mom, and my father's side is Jamaican, and my mother used to bring me to visit my Jamaican grandparents, and I couldn't understand a word they were saying, because they spoke like a hardcore Jamaican patois, and I couldn't understand the word that they were saying, and they would get frustrated because I'd be like, "Mom, I don't understand them," and they get frustrated and all that. But then my mom passed, and I went to go live with my. Essentially, I ended up being raised by my grandparents, my Jamaican grandparents, and I never, like, they communicated to me in patois because that's how they spoke. I just spoke back to them in regular Canadian English, if you will. But of course, growing up in that environment, I did, of course, pick up the patois. And not only that, but anyone who grew up in Toronto will tell you that there's a prevailing Jamaican, like a heavy Jamaican influence just on the culture. Like, you know how in America there's Black culture? Mm-hmm. In Canada, specifically in Toronto, because that's where most of us are, the Black culture is essentially Jamaican influenced. There's a lot of Africans here as well and people from different islands. But if you grew up in the inner city or if you grew up in Black Toronto, you essentially know some patois because the Toronto accents or the Toronto, like the Toronto street talk is essentially like patois. That's okay. That's the vibe here. So you'll have Asian guys or white guys or Spanish guys who grew up kind of like in that environment around Black people, and even they're speaking with that accent.
So like, do you and your wife and like your family, like, do you guys speak it in your home like now or no?
No, I mean we speak we speak the way that I'm speaking to you right now, but every now and then, the same way that, like, let's say you're from a Black family in the States and your roots are like real Southern or something,
Mm-hmm.
and you might not speak that way regularly, like if you're in New York or Chicago or something, but when you get angry or when you get excited, it comes out. You know what I mean?
Oh.
So it's like that, where my wife and I will just, we speak the way we speak, but when the kids get real rowdy or something, a little bit of that will come out, right?
Mm-hmm.
like why if you're not, like it comes out. You know what I mean? Because you're just being, like, when you're passionate, your roots come out, right? So yeah.
Yeah, that's what's up. Yeah, like, because I didn't know if just like how formal, like it is. Like, I mean, I know, like, obviously, like in families, like no one's gonna hand you a book type of thing. Like, you just like pick it up, like, like through like hearing. So if at all, like, I'm curious to know this, like, is Jamaican culture different in Canada, like compared to the United States?
So in my opinion, I've traveled even to Jamaica itself, and I've traveled to the States and everything. And one thing I noticed about Jamaicans is they don't want to change for nobody. So the Jamaicans in Jamaica, I was like, oh, like when I went to Jamaica for the first time for my honeymoon, like back in 2010, and I've been there a few times since, I was just like, oh, the Jamaicans here are just like the Jamaicans in Canada. It's like they didn't change. And then in the States, from my experience traveling to the US, I find that the Jamaicans are concentrated in New York mainly and Florida, right? Pretty much that's where they seem to congregate, right? And when I've been to those places, I've witnessed that Jamaicans are Jamaicans, man. Like, they actually know. The main difference I noticed is that kids who grew up in Jamaican households in the States, a lot of them just sound African American, like just sound like Black American. And then the Jamaican comes out every now and then, right? Whereas in Canada, you will know, if you grew up in a Jamaican household, you will still retain some of the, like, you don't sound like it's identifiable, essentially.
Okay, got you.
Like when I travel to the States, I've had people say, like, the one time I was in Kentucky and this girl was like, "Are you a Rasta?" And I'm like, "Why?" And she said, "The way you talk." And I'm like, to me, I sound Canadian as ever. But they identified. And then I was talking to Alex Faith one time. He's from Atlanta, and same thing. He's like, "Yo, why are you talking that way?" And I'm like what? Is that like from the Caribbean? And I'm like, to me, I just sound like I'm talking straight up, Canadian, but they hear it as Caribbean. So I guess the retention is definitely stronger in Canada. Like, Canada is very multicultural, whereas the States is Canada is I'm probably over answering this question, but Canada is a mosaic, whereas the States is more of a melting pot, meaning that in the States, assimilation is encouraged. You go there and you become American, right? In Canada, it's more like you're more free to be Canadian, but also be whatever your culture is. So people will be here for 20 years and still have the accent of wherever they came from. You know what I mean? So it's kind of cool. Sometimes it's frustrating because it's like, okay, you've been here for so long and I can't understand you still, but it's cool because it's like there's so much different cultures and we're all friends and we're all together in the same places, in the same cities. You know what I mean? Like an Arabic guy and a Asian guy, we all have different accents and we're all friends. So that's kind of cool. It's not like one accent. Like I said, though, if you go into the street culture now, there is a Toronto street kind of lingo, if you will.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I kind of did it on Top Spot, kind of. Like where you say, like, man, it's like, yeah.
Yeah, and it's so funny that you said that when you said Canada is a mosaic while America is a melting pot. Like, I was talking to a Canadian like a couple years ago, like in another interview when I was doing an internship, and he said the exact same thing.
Mm-hmm. It's true. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can agree with it. Would you ever like want to live in Jamaica or like move to the States?
So I thought about, my wife and I have been talking about getting our Jamaican citizenship just because we can, because why not? You're allowed to, if one of your parents is Jamaican, you can get it. But moving to Jamaica, I don't want to paint a bad picture of the islands because it's a beautiful place. But it can be rough as far as like the level of like, just like I said, I don't want to paint a bad picture, but I know Jamaicans who came here who said I'm not going back there because of the level of like violence and so on, especially in certain parts like Kingston and so on, where my family is. Don't forget, Jamaica is seen as this paradise where people go to relax on the beaches, but there's a lot of poor people there. And it's considered, I don't like saying this, but it is technically considered a third world country, technically. So there is a lot of poverty, and poverty breeds desperation, and desperation can breed violence. So moving to Jamaica, I don't know if that would be in the cards. As far as moving to the States, I would move to the States for opera. Canada is, I'll say this, and I hope you don't take offense. I would say Canada's a better place to live if you just want to live. Like, you just want to live in a nice, clean country that has, good healthcare and just like takes care of their people. And, it's a nice multiculturalism. The weather is, I would compare the weather to probably like a place like Chicago. The weather is what it is, but there's no earthquakes or hurricanes or stuff you got to worry about. It's a nice place to live. I would say it's a better place to live. Even as a Black person, of course, there's racism here too, but it's not as prevalent as in the States. So I would say it's a better place to live. But if you're somebody who is trying to do something creative and really excel at it, like music or anything artistic or sports or anything on a grand scale, you cannot beat the US. Like, the US just has way more opportunities, way more, I know there's way more competition, but there's also way more ways that you could just kind of excel at your art. Because we do have a lot of, as you probably see if you pay attention to music, we have a lot of art coming from Canada. Where do you have to go to make it? You have to go to the US.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And my wife and I also talked about moving to Africa, believe it or not. We talked about it. And at one point we had like one foot out the door, like moving to Ghana. And that's not because we don't have any, like, we're African, but we're not African, you know what I mean? But we just went through a phase, and we're still there where we're kind of like, okay, where are we headed as a people? And I don't know, is there any hope here in this part of the world, like for us to ever, as a people to ever, whether it's US, Canada, is there any hope for us to really excel outside of the limitations that seemingly have been placed on us? And we kind of said, you know what, maybe we should just go back to the continent. So we talked about that as well. And it's still not out of the, no, I'll go wherever God leads me, essentially.
No, you made me like remember what I was thinking about. So when I was like listening to the album initially, like when it came out, I got so many Canada ads on YouTube. Like, I kept getting Canada ads, and I'm like, where is, like, what are they trying, like, what is this, like, type of thing. And no, I'm not offended when you said, like, that Canada is better for like the reasons that it is, because I agree with that. And I was just gonna ask you too, so you basically saying that I should move to Canada because like
like I said, like, you can't beat, like, I'm very blessed to live specifically where I live. Canada's a big country. Believe it or not, Canada's actually, I don't know if you're aware of this, but Canada's actually bigger than the US as far as like land. Like, it's the second biggest country in the world after Russia. So
I get that though.
Yeah. So what's that, sorry?
I said, yeah, even on the map, like, it looks bigger.
Yeah.
Like,
it's actually bigger. And that's even with us giving you guys Alaska, because we should have had Alaska, but Canada is still bigger. But as far as the one thing that I do love about the States is there's so many different, like, you don't have to leave the States. You want the beaches and whatever, and the warm weather, you go to Florida, California. You want city life, New York, Chicago, whatever you want. Country, you can go to, I don't know, Montana or something. I don't know where the country is. But there's so much different places. There's 50 states, right? In Canada, you have 10 provinces and some territories, 2 territories. But it's like everyone kind of lives in this one area. like around the US border, like right around the Toronto area, Montreal. Like everyone's kind of huddled around this one little area. So Toronto, there's no place, the Toronto area where I live, there's no place like it in the world. It's in my opinion, I've traveled all over. In my opinion, it's the best place like ever. The multiculturalism, the access, the lifestyle, like it's amazing. But one, it's getting expensive. That's one thing I like about the States. Oh, New York is too expensive. Okay, I'll go to Georgia. I'll go to Atlanta. Toronto is like, okay, where am I going to go? Saskatchewan? Like, it's too expensive, but where else is there for me to go where I'm not going to be in an environment that is not really that pleasant or that like appealing, right? Yeah. So I would say Canada is the best. And yes, you should move here, but specifically, I can speak to the Toronto, Montreal, especially as a Black person. There isn't a lot of a Black population outside of, the majority of us are in the Toronto area. A lot of us are also in Montreal. So a lot of Haitians and French-speaking Africans. And then Nova Scotia has their own Black community that actually has a rich history descending from slaves who escaped to Canada, who made it to the Promised Land, which is, so aside from that, though, the rest of Canada, can't really say it's that great as far as like, it's cold, it's bushy, it's, But yeah, Toronto area, 2 thumbs up. You should move here. Especially Chicago. Listen, sorry, the last thing I'll say about that, going to Chicago for the first time, I was like, am I in Toronto? Like, they look and feel very similar. I would give Chicago the edge as far as architecture because the buildings are older and kind of more like historical looking, whereas Toronto looks more like newer. But they are very similar. And I found out that they're actually sister cities. And that's why you guys have Ontario Street, Maple Street, because Toronto and Chicago are actually sister cities. So they're built and the feel is very similar.
Wow, I had no idea.
Yeah.
That's what's up. It makes sense. Yo, this is going by so fast.
I thought I was dragging my answers on, but I can drag them on more.
So I definitely want to talk about your family, your husband, your dad, like in the music especially. You shared a lot just about your life, even like intimate moments and stuff like between your wife on songs like Number and DeLorean off the In God's Good Timing album, which I love those songs. And you also just involve your wife specifically in the music. Going back to UFO Tofu, she was on ABBA. I do want to say, I thought that the person singing, I thought that was a sample.
Well, I wanted her, I told her to sing a certain way. I told her to sing like, almost like those 90s R&B tracks.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, sorry, or those 90s hip hop tracks where you have like the Biggie track. I specifically told her to kind of sing like those old, you would have a hip hop track and you would have like the lady singing on there with that kind of soulful voice. So I told her to go for that. So you kind of, I'm glad you picked it up because I kind of wanted it to sound like a sample. So I'm glad you picked it up.
Yeah, like it sounded like something from the 90s, like you said. Is that like, music, something that you guys kind of connected on, like early on? You shared the story of how you guys met.
Any opportunity. Okay, so she's a big R&B fan. She grew up on R&B, and I grew up on hip hop. So, and then sometimes we meet in the middle when it comes to like music, like Biggie and so on in the 90s where they had the hip hop merged with the R&B and so on. But one thing that always kind of sucks is the kind of music I make is reminiscent of, the current sound of hip hop. And you don't hear a lot of R&B incorporated into that these days because most of us rappers these days try to act like we can sing just as good as the R&B singers. So we sing our own hooks and whatever, and we kind of do the auto-tune singing. So there isn't a lot of opportunity for me to feature her on my tracks sonically. This doesn't make sense sonically, given her soulful type of voice. So any opportunity that I do get to feature her, I take it. Like if there's a song where I'm like, you know what, this is a song where I actually do want to incorporate some soulful singing, then I put her on there. Or if you listen to In God's Good Time, I gave her a whole track pretty much. Mm-hmm. The producer, my boy Jeremy, who is the producer for a lot of my songs in general, he had that, he sang that. and he kind of had it in his trash bin. And my wife heard it and she was like, wow, this really resonates with me. Can I do a second verse? And I said, okay, I'll call Jeremy and ask him. And Jeremy said, yeah, cool. And she wrote and performed her own second verse. And then they kind of did like a duet thing. So any opportunity that I get to just like feature her or allow her to shine in her talents, you know, I try to make it happen. I got one more track that I'm working on that will be coming out soon. Hopefully featuring Ishan if everything goes right, that will have her singing the hook as well. So yeah.
Okay. So she does pretty much all of your background vocals, right?
Not okay, anything. So on UFO Tofu, Kay Sade herself did a lot of like pretty much all of the background vocals. Except for on ABBA, like I said, that was my wife doing her part. But throughout my music, I've had Alana, my wife, do a lot of the background vocals, but I've also had, aside from the producer Jeremy, I've also, and my engineer Adam, sometimes doing background vocals, I've also had Charlene Nash. I don't know if you're familiar with Charlene Nash.
Yes, I'm familiar.
Yeah, so I've had her do background vocals, especially on my earlier stuff on the Good album. She was all over that, doing background vocals. Because she'd be in the studio, I'd be there. We use the same, like we have a mutual engineer. So I'd be in the studio and I'd be like, hey, are you gonna be around? Can you come through and lay down some background vocals? And she would just come through the studio. I'll pick her up, bring her to the studio, and she would just lay down some vocals and be chilling in the studio. So
we're pretty much out of time, but I got like 2 more questions for you if you don't mind.
Yeah, I don't mind. No.
I definitely talk about like your music, what you have coming up. One thing I was curious to know, because you kind of, you know, started with Role Model Records and you were RMG Amplify. So what's like your ideal scenario? Like, would you want to do another indie boutique label, like major distribution, indie distribution? Like, what's like your ideal scenario as an artist?
So I definitely enjoy the creative freedom of being independent, but I do miss especially as I become more, you know, older and become more of a family man and become more invested in my family, there's a lot of time that I just don't have. So I miss the label kind of doing, like handling things in the background and kind of handling all the moving parts. And I just have to focus on the creation of the music as opposed to, because when you're doing when you have your hands in every process, the creative and the business, it becomes a full-time job. And at this point, I just don't have time for a lot of the things that I know would be better if I had a label behind me. However, a label also tells you when you can release music and how to release it, and a label also has their hand in your pocket. They take a good chunk, the majority of your money, right? They pay for things, but they also take the majority of your money. So I don't miss those aspects of it, but an ideal situation would be to be a part of a label, but I don't think I would go boutique at this point. It would have to be go big or go home, because I would have to be a part of something that I would see the benefits of, okay, you're taking most of my money, but I'm also making a lot more money because I'm with a label that will get me where I need to get. You know what I mean? So I would do that. I would say that would be an ideal situation. If I were to go with a indie label, especially in CHH, it would have to, if I was going to take that route, it would have to be based more on values and respect as opposed to the business, because I can't see how any label that exists right now would be able to do for me way more than I can do for myself at this point. But I could think of a label or two, specifically one label in CHH that I would probably consider signing to, just based on, wow, I like what they stand for. I like what they're doing. I'm not going to say who the label is, but you could see I'm wearing a hoodie that you can't see. You can't see what that label is. And I'm purposely keeping it out of the picture.
Yeah, it's funny though, because like when I was thinking about this, I was like, I could see Dru on this label. Like I could see actually you and Kay on that label. But if you want to know like kind of my opinion, if I may interject. So one, I feel like you know, absolutely like a major deal, like is like absolutely ideal. But I feel like for you, like I would love to see this, like once you have that, like have your own indie label, because
I thought about it.
yeah, I feel like just how you know, like develop artists and how you are with like working with other people, like I feel like you would make a good person to head a label.
That's definitely crossed my mind quite often, because I do believe I have, as you mentioned, and you know, like I know where I'm gifted, and I do think I have a good ear for. I think I make a good A&R. Like I know I can spot talent, scout talent.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I'd be good at that. It's just that the amount of work that it takes to run a label, I would definitely have to partner with somebody else. That's how I feel. Just because of the amount of work and resources it takes. I feel like as much as I know that I could definitely have something to offer if I had my own label, as far as like my perspective and my A&R skills, I don't want to be one of those. I've been an artist on an indie label where I've had frustrations because the label couldn't what I needed just because of lack of resources. So I wouldn't want to be that to somebody else where it's like, okay, I signed the artist and then I can't provide what they need because I just don't have the resources. So I'd probably have to partner with somebody that we can pool our resources so we can, be able to fulfill the artist's needs. So it's not out of the question, but it's something I've thought about. It's just not my focus at this particular moment, but you never know.
Absolutely. Yeah, like that's why I said like too, like, like down the line, whenever you want to slow down, like I think that would be really dope. And a lot of people will really benefit from that too, especially in CHH.
Mm-hmm.
So last thing, what's 2021 looking like for Dru Bex? I saw your tweet, you mentioned Imperfect Messenger too. So yeah, like what's coming up?
So essentially, I am at a place in my career where it's like, okay, what's next sonically? I don't want to get stale, and I'm one of those artists that always wants to evolve and okay, what can I do next, right? Which is why I wanted to do that project with Kay Sade, because it's like, okay, one thing that I haven't done in my career yet is a joint album. And if I'm going to do a joint album, I want to do it with an artist that I really respect, that I think is just as creative, if not more creative than me, and that can hold their own and whatever. So that's why I chose Kay Sade. So going forward now, I'm like, okay, what's my next creative move? And I have some ideas. And I feel like, okay, before I start that next chapter, I want to kind of, not necessarily close out, but kind of come full circle with the chapter that I've been in, right? And I believe that started with the chapter that I'm currently in. I believe it started with Imperfect Messenger. So I said, okay, I want to come full circle and end this chapter with Imperfect Messenger 2. So another EP. So it's not going to be a full-length album. It'll be an EP like Imperfect Messenger. And that'll be my offering. That'll be my main offering for 2021. In the meantime, though, while I'm creating that music, and it's almost done being written and everything already, actually, while I'm creating that music, I'm also making phone calls and doing things to set up the next chapter. So I don't really, as far as the next chapter goes, I don't want to make any announcements yet because I'm not even sure exactly how things are going to formulate. But there are definitely some doors that God has opened. God opened a big door recently that I'm like, he opened one and I was like, wow, that one's pretty big. And then he goes, oh yeah? And he opened another one that I'm like, whoa, I did not see that coming. And if that goes, I'm just waiting for God to show me which door I'm supposed to walk through. But I've got two pretty big doors right now that I see. And to be announced or to be determined. We'll see. Pray for me.
Absolutely. That's what's up. Can't wait to see, whichever like one like that turns out to be. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciated it. And yeah, I'll check out more of your videos, and I want to encourage you in what you're doing, because any platform that gives artists, a way to just elaborate on their art. We really appreciate our art. We really love our art and cherish our art. So when somebody wants to give us an opportunity to talk about it and shows their appreciation, show their appreciation about it, you know, it's definitely a blessing and it goes a long way and means a lot. So thank you for providing this platform, and, you know, just hope for more success for you in the future.
So that was my interview with Dru Bex. I really hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to keep up with him on all his social media right here and links below. Plus, keep up with us, Personal Pizza Party Show, on our social media, all right here, also links below. My name is Jada, the creative Chicago native who loves pizza, and I'll see you next episode.